So today, what I'm going to do is explain to you how I like to run my Living Your Design Guide certification training program. And that guide training program is comprised of 3 different modules. One is going to be with me, the lecture and mentoring. 2, you're going to audit, and that will be with your choice of guide. And then 3, you're going to deliver, and that will be with one of my teachers, Julie, who is not only a certified Living Your Design guide for many, many years, almost as long as I, because she was one of my first students, but also she's BG5 trained as well as analyst trained, so you're in good hands there. And I'll explain who else you can audit with if you want it to be included as part of your package. So 1, 2, and 3, it's like 3 courses in one, the way that I do it. And then you get certified. Now, the way that I do it is a little bit different. At IHDS, they give you like 18 classes, and with that same group, you'll get mentored, and then you'll have to deliver in that same group 18 classes in a row, if that's more interesting to you. And what you do there, I believe you only deliver 2 elements of the program. So whatever it is that you want to practice, 2 elements. With us, I found that people benefited from a little bit more practice than just 2 modules. So with us, you're going to practice and deliver not just live in the groups with your fellow students, but you're also going to send in recordings of you delivering so that we can review your material as far as how you're going to deliver the Living Your Design program, and make sure that you're very, very clear on the concepts. So that's one reason why I like to have somebody else do it, so that I'm really sure that you've been vetted, we could say. And then the audit, you may not want to take, the audit again with just my recordings, which I will give to you, my original recordings from last year when the last time that I taught Living Your Design. You'll get my recordings from a real live Living Your Design, plus the bonus materials if there are any after the fact, because I did have guides and training with me during that time. And you can also live audit, which is a requirement. You want to live audit with somebody, and you may want to pick a different style, type of person, a different teacher. So there are some teachers on our platform that do this one-on-one. My suggestion is that you actually go to a group person if you're going to do group classes. And one of the things you're going to learn next week is, are you a group person? Is this going to work for you? So just to let you know, that's the overview. Now I see I have a question, so let me pop in here. You do not see the course syllabus on Mighty Networks. Okay, so the reason why you don't see anything there yet is because the way that this is structured is that you have to check off the box when you're done with whatever it is that course area happens to offer. So until you've actually checked and said, yes, I've gone through this, you won't be able to see the rest of the course because it's revealed or unveiled as you go through it. So just to let you know that that is a requirement. Okay, so let's go back over here. And one of the things I'm going to do with you today is ask you if you could get a piece of paper or pencil, pen, whatever works for you, to maybe take some notes if it's right for you, or just ponder for a little bit. I want to make sure that you're set up for success in this, not just trained with another certification under your belt, but actually having the tools to be able to convey to others your story, your success story, or your satisfaction or peace or surprise story, whatever it is that your type is. Do you remember back to the beginning when human design found you? That story is part of your genesis story, you could see. Part of your genesis as far as when you first became aware of human design. Now, do you remember how it hit you or how it landed with you? What happened when you recognized the process of learning who to be, how to be yourself, rather than everything that you thought you had to be, that you were not? That right there is one of the most powerful stories you can convey to someone else, because it is sometimes it's a shock, isn't it? when you recognize the problems that you're facing, and then you realize the challenges are right there in that body graph. So one of the things that I want you to work on is your success story as we go through this course. This is like for you, for your marketing materials, okay? What is your genesis story? That's one of the things that I want to have you write. Now, as human design is a science of differentiation, all of us are going to have a different process as we go through this journey. But what you'll notice is that your mess becomes your message, as in the greatest shadows become your greatest wisdom potentials. And so if I think back to my first real shock of initiation into recognizing how I was so locked into the not self purpose or the shadow state, I can remember walking through a grocery store and I had said something, done something, my mind thought it was my fault. And I was with my boyfriend, now husband at the time. And I remember out of my mouth flew, "I can't do anything right." I was so emotionally dysregulated. And because I was already in the Living Your Design program, my eyes immediately widened, my hand flew up to my mouth, and I was in shock because right there was my primary not self purpose. The third line, thinking that there's something wrong with me, the undefined heart thinking that there's, I can't do anything right, I'm not good enough. So right there, that is one of the biggest challenges that people have to overcome. And what you're doing is you're helping them awaken to the fact that their mind is locked into these negative looping thought patterns, these uncomfortable shadow states that lead them to believe the not self mind, the thought processes inside of the head about the self. So that's one of the things that you can provide, is being able to guide people center by center. Each center unlocks a different aspect of that shadow state, that shadow self. Or if they're a basic split, then the split areas that bridge that definition are going to unlock some of the shadows, the wisdom potential. Because as soon as you let go of believing that thought process inside of your head about yourself that comes from the shadow state, and you remind yourself to come back to your authoritative process, being who you are, for yourself if you're a generator, for others if you're a projector, your impact if you're a manifester, and being who you are as a barometer of the sum totality of what you encounter in this life. As a reflector is designed to be objective and reflect its surroundings. Each of you has a different way of being a leader or a guide or an advisor, whatever it happens to be. Are you going to lead by example? Are you going to teach from your experience? I can tell you, teaching from experience, from the mistakes you have made, the actual story is going to give so much more flavor, uniqueness to your programs if you can find and relate those to others. Because what that does is it makes you more relatable. It makes you more real and authentic. So don't think that you have to have everything all figured out. You just have to be one step ahead of that person who's coming to you for guidance. All of us have our own fractal. There is no competition in human design. Each of us are designed to serve uniquely specific others, especially if you are a transpersonal karma person. All of us are just, Rob would say, waiting on the fractal line, where there are certain people that are just waiting for you to get it enough to be able to hear it from you. And when the teacher is ready, the student appears. Just like when the student is ready, the teacher is there. So it's about differentiating your message. How is it that you are here to share your story? You can see that I am here to share the experiences, what I remember. Oftentimes they're very painful experiences. My desires, my emotions, my feelings, my fantasies, my experiences when I get hit up by the gates of fate, and my inspiration. When I'm inspired, I can move people energetically with my emotional clarity, or not clarity, move them like, get out of the way, I'm storming down the aisle, or whatever the case may be. But that's not correct, it just brings bitterness. But when you move from the authenticity of your design, now we have sweetness, we have success, for the projector. We have satisfaction for the generator that pulls everybody into your auric frequency. We have peace for the manifester, which gives us immense impact into the world. And then we have the gentle, non-obtrusive, quiet and clear reflector aura that brings the surprise into the life. So each of you very different in your way of being authentically you. Now, one of the things that I do, because I'm a Living Your Design guide, teacher, trainer, and a BG5 certification instructor in not only foundations, the certification program, and profit potential, is next week we're going to work with your profit potential. And I'm not going to give you one of these, but I'm going to read your chart as if I have this in front of me, at least for the very basics, so that you know how you're here to be set up for success in your business. Because there are very specific recommendations Ra has to experiment with. Again, remember, you are your own authority, so you do with it what you will. However, I can give you some really important key factors, pieces of advice to experiment with as you move on in this journey. And one of the things that you'll learn from me if you decide to move forward with us is to learn how to deliver the Living Your Design Guide program, or not guide, but program, the Living Your Design program as a guide in alignment with your highest profit potentials and in alignment with your design, period. Okay, so I'll give you that next week. Now remember, when you are now in the business of human design, this is about opening the door to the true self. Okay, the business of human design on the human design side is about awakening people to their highest, most authentic selfhood, self-realization, self-actualization. That kind of thing is what we're talking about with human design here. Now on the BG side, BG5 side, Ross says, remember, the moment you stop being in control of your life is perfectly financed. So one of the things that you might be concerned about at this point, if you're going to become a certified anything in human design, is how will I make money at this? Having a lot of experience over the years, past decade, working with human design, learning and working, I can tell you from experience that there are certain activations in your design that are going to help you align to making money. And that's the thing that we'll cover next week. It's not normally part of a Living Your Design Guide training course. It is part of mine. Now, the reason why we would want to do this work is this is about the fulfillment of purpose. Human design isn't for everyone, Ross says. It's never going to be for everyone. It's only for those who are ready. The readiness is a serendipity. It's a door opening slightly. It's that moment of possibility of being able to truly go a different way. It's time to go a different way. It's time to go the way of ourselves, what we are as being, nine-centered beings. And you entering into this program as a potential professional become part of the most important group of professionals we have in human design, and that is the Living Your Design Guide. So being a Living Your Design Guide is a really wonderful experience because guess what? You're right there learning along with your students as you go through the program over and over and over again. This program is designed to be taught live by you, in aura or not, according to your authoritative process. So as you decondition yourself, because, even after the first 7 years, we got another 7 years because we're always being conditioned. So the deconditioning journey never ends. But let's say you're in the first 3.5 years. I can remember doing this about 2 years into my experiment. And every single time I taught, let's say Ashna, that one really triggered me with the totally open Ashna that I have here. So you're learning not only from teaching the material, but also implementing or applying it with each of your students, and then hearing their stories, hearing their process, sharing the journey. So now going back to part of your Genesis story, do you remember when you let go? Because every single undefined function that you have in your body graph has something that you need to let go of. The only way through is to surrender to your decision-making strategy. So do you remember that first time you witnessed your mind's lies and could let them go? I told you my first one already. Now I'll tell you my most recent one that I can recall a couple years ago. It felt like I had been punched in the face when I was told by somebody no, when in fact I was able to sign a contract that said yes, I just had to ask for permission. So when I was told no, 2 years later, that I couldn't do what I thought I was signing up to do, I cried for like months, and all I could think about, my mind was like, I am going to get back at her. I am so freaking jealous and angry and upset, and it was horrible in my body. And I'm so grateful that I was able to not believe the mind's story and to let that go. I censored myself. Let that go, that stuff, that lie inside of the head about the self. One of the things that I know I can do, because I've seen it happen, is surrender to what is. What is actually being experienced right here in this body, right here in this form, right here in this present moment. Whatever it is that's happening, there are feelings that come with that, especially with me. Feelings, it's part of my life's work, sharing feelings. So can you witness how your mind lies and you're able to let that lie go rather than acting upon it? Can you wait for clarity if you're emotional, or if you're, mentally defined as a mental projector, or for the lunar cycle if you're reflective? Or can you wait for the response rather than what your mind is insisting that you do? If you can't at least recognize your own mind's lies and let go and follow your decision-making strategy instead, you don't really have much to offer to another person. If you have been studying human design and just paying lip service, which, hi, projector raising my hand here, emotional, wide split, really messed up at the beginning of the experiment. I was really good at knowing or articulating the principles of human design and not necessarily able to follow it so much in the beginning. And if you can't, this is a paraphrase from one of my other teachers, the one that certified me as a Living Your Design Guide teacher trainer, Olakanandias. He says, you don't have anything to offer someone if you can't teach them about helplessness and choicelessness. At this stage, being a human design guide, you have witnessed and watched as, the body is the life. The body has its needs, desires, passions. It has its requirements, and the body doesn't lie. The mind lies. The body doesn't lie. So oftentimes the challenge that happens between, the mind, the dialogue inside the head about the self, and what the body is actually doing, that's the cause for the disconnect and the challenges and the upset between this conscious personality that is riding around on this vehicle and this body that it's, just living its one precious life. So remember, the biggest key I can give you, and this is from my experience as somebody who is a 33-6, okay, to be able to disassociate from the mind's story, its history, what it thinks, what it thinks it has to do, or what it remembers that it's painful and suffering and trying to avoid. This is one of those things that Ra also had, the 33-6, to be able to disassociate from the mind's story and to be able to follow the body, trust the body. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of practice. It takes time. So if you are not at that place where you can quite honestly look at yourself and follow your decision-making strategy, being your own authority, this is not the time, place to move forward. Okay? It may be that going through this program, you'll get better at it. But if you cannot live in alignment, it's not a good idea to try and teach others how to do this yet. Because if you are living more on the side of the dysfunction, pain, suffering, frustration, anger, bitterness, disappointment. If that's more often your experience than not, don't go forward. My suggestion anyway. Wait. Wait for right timing. Now, sometimes I've seen people go through this program and they don't go forward in teaching it actually for years. They might get their analyst training first because it's just not correct for them. Signpost. Yeah, absolutely. If it's not correct for you, don't move forward. Other reasons you could take this program is for personal development, not just professional. But really be careful to be in integrity with who you are. Because what a Living Your Design Guide teacher is a guide to awakenness. This is the only spiritual course you'll find in human design. Ross's Living Design is a great trip because your responsibility in that is that you're here to help wake people up. This is not about training them as professionals. I'm training you to be a professional, but when you're working as a Living Your Design Guide, you're here to wake them up. So you don't have to teach everything when it comes to the presentation that you buy from IHDS. You just have to teach them how to live their design. Unless they're coming to you to become a Living Your Design Guide in themselves, or analyst, or whatever the case may be. They want to become a human design professional as well. You focus on their design, especially if they're a generator. They're a projector. Get the closest 3 to 4 people in their lives and go through that with them about the other people. It's one of the things that Ra would experiment with. He gave analysis to projectors for years that was 15 minutes on that person's design. And then he went and looked at other people's designs, the people in their lives. Okay, so Living Your Design is for you to customize to your client's needs. It is. Again, unless that person is looking to be a fellow professional like yourself. The human design system is form knowledge. Form knowledge as in, this is about, Ra would call himself a messenger of the form, a messenger of the earth. The form, our form, is going through, as a species, an intense, heavy, genetic, mutative shift right now, because of the background frequency shifting. So many people are under immense physical stress and pressure right now. And we have, this next September, really great time to get into human design. The last hurrah of Pluto in gate 61, inner truth. And then it goes back into where it's at right now, which is limitation. We only have a few more years before the background frequency shifts, and each individual is going to be responsible for their own survival. It's not about the governments taking care of us anymore, as you well have seen or experienced, that is breaking down, that cross of planning. So now is the time, a really good time, not only for you to do this work, if this feels like your calling, it feels like something that is aligned for you, but also for other people to get into it. Have you noticed since Pluto went into 61 a few years ago, the tremendous tidal wave of human beings coming into esoteric knowledge, 61 line 1, occult knowledge, that was part of Ra's life's work. So you are now going to be a new messenger, taking this information and putting it out into the world in whatever way, shape, or form that is correct for you. What I am here to do is to help you do that in the most aligned way possible, not only for you, but also true to the knowledge. And one of the things that is true to the knowledge is Ra's quote about making mind your servant, and this is, mind isn't for turning off. It's for aligning. It's for correcting it. We have great minds. They're beautiful things. But the mind is not here to be your enemy for life. It isn't. It's here to serve. It's here to express you. If you look down at that body graph, you'll notice, if you've taken the foundations, that the mind itself is not connected up to the motor functions directly. No, it's not. It's here for communication. It's here for commiseration or communion, you could say. Communion with the right others. It feels so satisfying, doesn't it, to be seen and heard and appreciated and valued when you're in a conversation one-on-one with the other and things are just clicking, they're gelling. using the human design system now to make that connection with that other individual one of the most wonderful things that you can do as a human design professional. Of course, you love human design if you're here, don't you? I do too. And it's the most accurate, aligned, specific, precise language you could use to help advise or guide people in your life. Now, this can be just for you so that you can raise your kids more successfully, sweetly, satisfyingly, what have you, more alignedly. Or it can be for you if you are somebody who is just interested in bringing this into your coaching program, your consulting, what have you. Living Your Design as a program, as an awakening program, if you're going to call it that, has specific requirements. But using the material in a way that helps align people, that's one of the benefits, the way that I have structured my materials, I'll show you, so that you can use the principles and apply it to the individuals that you serve. Now, one of the things that you're going to do as you shift from being a student to a professional guide is that you're going to learn from your students by walking the path with them. Are you a sixth line? Do you have 6 lines anywhere in your communication process? Not healthy to be a hypocrite. You know that, unless it's something that you have literally do as I say, not as I do, imprinted into your design. So same thing here. All of us, as we walk this path with our students, we are going to learn so much from the engagement, from the interaction. I'll do my best to share as much as I can as far as what I've learned, as far as what can go wrong, what mistakes I've made, what challenges I've come across in delivering this program, in coaching and guiding with this program since 2014. Now, third thing, I ask if you are going to come into my classes with me that you do your best to dedicate yourself to the experiment and to learning through your experiences. So, can you cultivate awareness above all else? This is not about proving how good you are following your human design. To me, to yourself, to anybody else, to your students especially, heaven forbid. This is not about you proving how smart you are and how much you know when you're being a Living Your Design guide. I've made that mistake, overwhelming people with too much non-relative information. Can you observe and question and listen? Can you have compassion for yourself and for the other? Cultivating, again, awareness above all else, the engagement, the cleanness of the experience with that other person or with your group, if you are leading groups. Please do your best to commit to yourself and your educational process. I don't want this to be a class that you buy and sits on the shelf. I want it to be something that you come to classes and engage. If you can't come live, that is okay. You can make it up by writing to me, by sending me little either messages, voice messages, video messages, post them in the group for your new fractal family, the people that are going through class with you, and sharing in the journey, sharing in the experience. You know, experience is designed to be shared when it's correct for all of us, right? They're going to learn via your example, your energetic frequency, your aura. And learning human design is not the same thing as living it. I made this a long time ago, one of the first images I made for Jovinga Archive, because it hit me so hard, because it's so true. Learning the principles of design isn't the same as following your body or being your own authority. It's really important that we get this. Your example is going to lead you into being the perfect guide for that right person if they're in your fractal family. So don't worry that you don't have all this down yet. However, one of the things I want to invite you to practice or get really clear on is this. Now, you've gone through all of this, the centers, the functions, you know, in Living Your Design and Brave ABCs, not really, more cartography. We go over these again. But have these like the back of your hand, these questions, these challenges, these functions. What are they representative of? What do they stand for? It'll make it easier on you as you practice. Now, on this slide, I have permission to use images from Human Design Canada, which is now defunct. They're out of business. But I love these images that are showing the multidimensionality of the body graph rather than that flat piece of paper. So you're going to see that. That's why we go through the rest of this presentation. The body graph itself is multidimensional. It has different frequencies, different chemistries, just like you are. And you yourself are not a flat piece of paper. Remember that. You are going through life cycles. You are going through relationships that bring their own levels of conditioning and learning and wisdom and growing. What happens when you are reading a map, the genetic blueprint of somebody's design? You're looking at that natal imprinting. This is the nature of their being. So the human design system reads your genetic code, says Ra. Now, with a human design education, your genetic code can be read in detail. That's the work of a professional analyst. This ability to be able to detail our mechanics, obviously, it's profound. It reveals the complete nature in its subtleties. However, by simply grasping the surface mechanic, what this work aspires to communicate, you will have a grounding in this life that is immediately going to bring a difference in your process. So you don't have to be an analyst to do the work of a guide. In fact, they're very different things. The work of an analyst is to decipher the map in more levels of detail. The work of a guide is to bring people continually back up to the surface, even though they're chomping at the bit to go down into the details. Stay on the surface, type strategy and authority, really get that into your language, into your way of speaking and being. Now, we're in this together if you're in this group with me. We are partners in your success. One of the things that we offer is support, camaraderie, learning, sharing, and growing, both during your class and beyond. One of the things, again, remember, do you understand, do you recognize grok? I love this word grok. Do you grasp helplessness? It's almost like you're eating it. You're available to recognize what the essence of this thing is. Helplessness, choicelessness. There is no shame in recognizing your own helplessness. Choicelessness is our grace, according to Ra. And if these statements that I'm making really don't land with you, you really don't get it yet, might not be the best time to move forward. But if you've seen the mind and its hijacking of your life, if you've recognized how your body responds one way and your mind says another thing, there it is. Okay? It's not about willing yourself to wake up. It's about following your own personal deconditioning process, which is gonna take time. And we're in this together. Now, one of the things you are going to need to know is about, Ra says, 70% more than your students. So as we go through this course, I'm going to do my best to teach so much more that you feel extremely confident when you get to those places of those wild and wacky, because you will get them, out of left field questions from your students. If you decide to specialize in projectors like I did, oftentimes I would have projectors coming into my class that had been years, maybe even a decade or more, longer in human design than I had been, asking questions, and hey, that open ajna, getting really comfortable with, I don't know. Let me get back to you. Let me check my notes. It's okay to not have to know everything, because this is not a, in-depth course. But the depth of the nature of what that human being is, that is really deep. That is really profound. So bringing them back up to the surface, but still knowing enough to go, you might want to go ask this person or that course or this area of the knowledge, rather than getting a completely blank stare and being totally embarrassed. Yeah, being able to ask questions instead of maybe making things up as an undefined ajna. What Ra says about being yourself is that all learning and real learning takes 7 years. It takes 7 years to change approximately all of the selves in the body. We live in a 7-year cycle, so the moment that you begin to come to your own nature, the moment that you allow your body to live its life without resistance, you begin a deep process of deconditioning. And 7 years later, you emerge quite literally as a new being yourself. That is one of the most magical experiences that you can go through, is to emerge as a new being, a new version, you could say, the thing that was lost after years and years, maybe decades of conditioning. What the deconditioning process does is it cleans you off, it clears you up, it literally lightens the load, it enlightens your being so that you can be yourself. So one of the things that you're going to want to do as you go through this program with me is know thyself, yourself, from the ground up. That's especially true if you are generative. So study yourself, continue to unpack all of those wonderful resources that you've learned in your foundation courses. If you're new to me, it's not an advertised bonus, but it is something that I gift to my students who go through Living Your Design Guide training with me. I will give you resources as far as my most recent courses in human design, besides the Living Your Design, ABC, and cartography, because I really want you to know your stuff, know yourself, and do as much as is correct for you, self-study in between our classes. So now Ross says, in my professional work, I have given between 5,000 and 6,000 individual readings, design analyses. Wherever that has been, and regardless of culture or country, there is one prevailing disease. It's called self-hatred. Self-hatred varies in intensity from being just beneath the surface of the consciousness, to being full-blown. It is the most human of ironies that self-hatred is truly misplaced, because these people do not know themselves. They're hating the wrong person, disappointed with the wrong person, dissatisfied with the wrong person. This life, your life, my life, our lives is a duality. We have a this and a that. We have a conscious personality, we have an unconscious design. We have a definition, we have an openness. What happens is people will come to you deeply immersed in their I, who they think they are, inside of their head, about themselves, and at odds with that I, having a challenge with who they think they are. So one of the things that you can do, what may happen for you, with you, is that you can start to break them free from that hold. Now, it's not going to be something that you maybe necessarily are doing. They are linking what you're saying to what is happening in their lives. Again, that's why I say, do your best to bring in stories. It's one of the reasons why the live practicum is so beneficial to go to, because you're going to hear your fellow students tell stories about their experiences. And so now you can have some relatability, maybe in a center that you don't have open and somebody else does, or you don't have defined and somebody else does. Because oftentimes, especially with the openness, oftentimes the shadow self rears its ugly face with the same mask. And that mask, because it's conditioning, that's false and challenged to the point of, if that person has this stuckness of that mask on, it's easily pulled away because it's so fragile. You know, there's a lot of fear there. It can be easily disrupted just by a specific trigger, you know, of an experience. And then they can have that shock of awakening, that mastery of the mechanics. Okay, so one of the things that you're going to do if you go through this course is really study and master not only the mechanics of human design, but your mechanics, so that you don't operate out of integrity with your design, so that you break that habit, if you still have it, of initiating rather than waiting for a response or recognition, mutual recognition, invitation, or being initiated by life, or being moved by life, whatever the case may be for you and your specifics. Mastering your mechanics takes time. It takes experimentation. Good day for it. Happy third line day. It's a good day for it. Third lines. Actually, when the rubber meets the road, how does this show up in your life? Sharing those stories, it makes your living your design yours and unique. Oftentimes, this course is the only course in human design that people repeat multiple times, because with each different iteration, when you're in a different place, at a different time in your process, some things with another person perhaps will link up and help you shed some of that illusion and falsity and disillusionment that you're running around underneath. And so in our industry, there's usually a 50% discount for people who are auditing, again, the audit program, of repeating the process and sharing in the journey again. Okay, so one of the things that I love so much is this term higher standards. It was the name of my first company when I was 17 years old. I had a cleaning company, higher standards. Here, I want you to know your stuff. I want you to be able to state the language of the human design system mechanics, your language in your way, of course, not being parrots, but explaining and interpreting in your own way, but using the fundamentals, the foundations, the principles of design as your backbone. Okay, so that's one of the things that I'm going to do my best to role model with you and tell you from my experience what works and what doesn't, giving you precise advice for your leadership success. All of us have leadership activations. I haven't seen one in somebody's design that didn't have, in some way or another, say shape or form. There's many different variations of leaders or guides or advisors. You don't have to be a projector to be somebody who does this really well. Your own leadership style, wherever you have 6s as an example. Leading with authenticity. 5s, leading with practicality. 4, leading with influence. Those are all external applications of those qualities, those line qualities. In your design, as we go through this course together, should you have any questions about your design, about your experience, after the lecture, there will be time to discuss. Okay, so lecture time and after, as long as I don't have too much interruptions during the lecture piece, afterwards we'll have at least half an hour to discuss and talk about your charts. Okay, so that you know thyself, the sacral center, know yourself, especially dear generator. Okay, so the moment, Ra says, that you live out your own nature and you enter into life correctly, this is the moment that you get what is correct for you, the correct career and relationships. It does not matter then whether you are a success or not. There will be no suffering despite your state. You will be living out your nature, and it will be clear to you that what is there for you is right for you, whatever it might be. There will be no part of you that says, I wish I could be this or that. It doesn't matter what your design is. What matters is how you live it. So in this process, we go through this journey together so that you are facilitated in going deeper into your own experiment to become yourself. One of the great benefits of doing this work is that you are immersed in the process, not only of learning, but experiencing, discovering, sharing, growing with your clients, one person at a time or one group at a time, however it is correct for you, to surrender to your own process, being your own authority, being engaged with life. Now the tides turn and your frequency shifts. And when you can surrender to letting go of anything that's holding you back from shining that bright light, each of us has our own candle. Ra carried that flame, and each of us can partake in that flame, that passion and abundance of spirit that arises from within when we align to our design. Your own candle can now go forth and ignite the candle, or fan the flames if their candle has dimmed, it's not lit. Maybe it's barely lit, but you can help ignite that spark in others. And this is what I'm so passionate about and why I love doing this work, or facilitating other people to learn how to be guides, analysts, BG5, what have you, whatever the case may be. Mentoring is really where I love to be as a teacher. So that not only you loving yourself, if you've been experimenting with human design, I know you've felt this, but also now being able to see other people going through this process of deconditioning and loving themselves, because that is the whole point on the human design side. The human design system opens the door to the potential of self-love. Finding self-love is also to find a greater love, a love for life, and a love for others through understanding. Throughout living your design and seeing yourself and coming to recognize your type and profile and coming to understand how you can live out your own nature, pay attention to the importance of that in your relationship with others. So many difficulties in our life, in this life, are because we have great difficulties in our relationships, whether they are career relationships or our personal relationships. What is true for the individual, a lack of understanding about their own nature, is true for relationships. Relationships operate out of genetic imperatives and they have their own rules. It's not something that we're going to go into in depth in this course. That is the work of Analyst Training Level 2, Semester 1. But you'll get a really good, solid foundation if you want to go and become an analyst. Living Your Design Guide training really gives you a leg up because you get really good at the mechanics. And it also helps you earn your living while you're going to analyst training, which takes another 1.5 years at least, maybe more, another 2 years actually. Yeah, 2.5 more years. So when it comes to you going through this process, I won't guarantee you about making money through this certification, but I know based on Ra's training, which this is an iteration of, that you will be able to guide others in their process. And that is a really wonderful thing if you're well built for it. All of us can help those other people if it's right for us to continue. So success begins with the first step. That is, know thyself, know thy mechanics, trusting in your process. Can you trust in living your unique design instead of initiating if it's not correct for you to initiate? Can you trust in the process? That's the thing I really want you to contemplate if it's correct for you. Now, human design, it's so beautiful. There's so many different areas of the knowledge that you could go into. I borrowed this image from, I think it was Human Design Bulgaria, and the statement here from Vedic astrology, they call it the science of light because of this image. And what I wanted to say here is that you see these little nodes? Yeah, nodes of the moon. The path, the direction in life that you're walking, the path that you're treading, it's so critical and key and important that you are aligned to the path. Now, you really can't go off your path. You can just live it with a lot of pain and suffering and having a skewed perspective. You're still surrounded by, bombarded by that energetic frequency. One of the things that I really want you to engage with is recognition of this path you're on. Speaking to the nature of your truth as clearly and cleanly as you can explain it or express it. Whatever the case may be, remember, when you walk that path, you are the perfect guide for those who resonate with you. This is not about somebody being the best. This is about you organically being the right person for that person who is engaging with you in your services. Now, I know a lot of you have challenges with marketing. I don't, because that's my shtick. It is my design. But if you have any questions about who you are here to serve, to support, to guide, know that next week we are going to work with your charts so that some of your doubts will become clear. The resolution of what am I doing here, especially if you've got an undefined G, I can help point you in the direction of study and learning to recognize the path that you're on and how you're designed to see and how you're designed to function. Okay, so we're going to help people know themselves, from their emotional wisdom to the anger that manifests to the self-empowerment. We're going to help them recognize their survival instincts, their mutation power, their tenacity. We're going to help them understand their authority and empower their wisdom as well, because the wisdom and the openness is being feeding into their life experience, something for their authority to process. Now, the 64 gates may be a little bit too much. You might not remember all the names of them yet. But as you go through this experiment, as you witness and watch, especially with the fears, okay, those are the places that I want you to really start to begin with, pay attention to, and see if you can remember their names. The fears are the most important thing that you're going to help people through. So I have additional resources beyond what is normally provided. Worksheets, spreadsheets, more correctly to state, that are going to help you reference what a person might be stating and some suggestions about some temporary advice or solutions that you might give, run through their own authority as well. Now this slide, one of the last slides, getting close to the end here, my friends. One of the last slides that I'll go into some more depth in here is inspired by the work of Genoa Bliven, the very first teacher that I had. We had recordings from Genoa, and then I had two different teachers, and then Genoa once, but two different teachers, a projector and a generator. So all three types represented as my teachers the first time I went through. And what he said was, this is all mostly him. I tweaked a couple of words in the way to make it more easy for me to read and for you to understand how I feel anyway. You know you're waking up from the thrall of conditioning when you can see how your thoughts are programmed, how your thoughts try to manipulate you or others. Now that's me especially. I can see that. It's what makes me weird and wacky and unusual, because I have that in my design. Now, you know you're deconditioning when you don't act on or believe the mind's storyline, which always leads to suffering. Real quick quote from Ra, only the not self suffers. The mind inside of the head about the self, not aligned, but negating, self-hating, challenged because it is believing the conditioning. What happens when we switch over to the frequency of being, our authentic self? The awakened nine-centered being looks and sees and accepts things as they are, takes its time according to its design to honor its own process, and speaks its truth without needing justification. Does not try to interpret the motives or reality of another. It asks and can allow unique perspectives. Doesn't second guess itself or degrade its value in being. It respects other people's boundaries without making demands, accusation, or exploitation. It asks about others' experiences and has an open mind to see other people's perception can be vastly different. And the nine-centered being is drawn to those of like vibration to support each other's evolution and growth. This is the nine-centered being's process. This is the thing that is so radically different. Spirit consciousness, enlightened awakeness, is simply about self-love, period. Loving the self exactly as you are, not trying to be more, not having to play less, but being exactly what you were born for. Okay, so getting out of that rut of the seven-centered, homogenized, fear-based, fear-mongering, manipulation, distortion, control, all of that. Letting go of all of that. Letting go of they must have, because I, and this and that and the other thing. Just let go. Just be present. Just come back to the body. Remember, your body is the life that you're living. You inhabit this one precious body. It gets one lifetime. The passenger, the witness inside of you, reincarnates life after life after life, approximately 64,000 different times you've lived, embodied. Not in this body. For the most part, we are eternal. So allowing this form to live its life. Can you let go? Can you awaken to the truth that is inherent within you? It's already there. You don't have to do anything different but let go of the identification with your mind's eye, the lie inside of your head about yourself.